Good morning, Commissioners. Calling the Civil Service Commission meeting to order for November 16th, 2021.
And there she goes. Hit it really hard. Smack it.
Anybody hear anything now? Yes? Oh, all right, good.
All right, thank you. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 3.
Morning, Commissioners. I have a very quick Chiefs update this morning before we just move on to new business. One, I just want to remind everyone that our meeting for next month has been canceled. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 18th. Just keep that on your calendar. Keep that in mind. Next month is a month of rest for the commission. It's been a year, so enjoy December. And also, we are working on a plan to at least have the commissioners back together and try and get the band back together in January. There's some logistical challenges and some rules that we're going to try and work through so that at least we can get people, commissioners in the same room together. We'll probably still be doing remote and using WebEx, but hopefully there'll be a point in the not so distant future that we're back together again. And I will, as soon as we have a workable plan, I will push some information out to all of you, probably at the beginning of January. So on that note, also happy holidays. If we don't see each other through Thanksgiving and the holidays in December and into the new year, you know, wishing you all the best into the new year. And then our new business this year, new business this month is Mr. Picklo is going to provide us an overview, just a refresher and training for our new commissioner on sort of Robert's Rules of Order, our Open Public Meetings Act, just a refresher presentation, followed by a classification and compensation presentation from our own Brian Sullivan and Pam Bergen from HR. Otherwise, that's all I had.
You want to close that door? Thank you, Kelsey. Good morning, Commissioners. We're going to do a brief review of the Open Public Meeting Act requirements and maybe a more brief review of Robert's Rules of Order, since those do not come up that often with the Commission. We thought it'd be a good idea to go through this at least once a year to help the Commission keep some of these issues in mind as you go through your meetings, and also to review if anything new has come up in the world of the Open Public Meeting Act through the courts or through excuse me, other associations or agencies. So in your packet, you have material that I provided. On the OPMA, we have some material from MRSC, which is the Municipal Research Service Center. And that is an agency that provides services to cities and counties on a whole array of topics, legal issues, legislative issues. So they're a very good resource for discussing the OPMA. And these were prepared in conjunction with the state auditor's office. So we have great confidence that if we follow, if we have questions, we can go look at these instructions, tips, and feel pretty confident we're on the right path. So those include practical tips on the agency obligations, notice requirements, executive session, and the last one is electronic communications. And those are the four main areas that I saw on their website that seem to be pretty helpful. We get back to the starting point that the commission is an agency subject to the OPMA. The commission functions under the city charter, under the umbrella of the city of Spokane, and the commission is clearly an agency subject to the OPMA. So with that, all your meetings have to be properly noticed, made open to the public, to stakeholders, to staff, to city administration, the labor unions. And of course, in the age of COVID, we have not had in-person meetings for coming up on close to 2 years now. So we have all these rules in place, but we also have the governor's proclamations and COVID protocol to comply with, at least for the unfortunate foreseeable future. So with the 5-member commission, and much of this you already know, so it's just, again, a refresher. With the 5-member commission, anytime 3 of you meet in person, on the phone, through email exchange, and you're discussing agency business, that is a commission meeting without proper notice and without a chance for the public and other stakeholders to attend. So any action taken during that meeting is null and void, and potentially those members participating could be subject to a civil fine. First time is $500, second time is $1,000. I've never had the occasion where any member of the city council or board or commission has ever had that scenario where a civil penalty is even considered, because you have to knowingly attend a meeting that you know is in violation of the OPMA. And that has never happened, and frankly, it will not happen as long as we have legal advice from the city attorney's office. We're pretty strict on making sure we follow these rules. And we've had, not with the Civil Service Commission, but with other boards and commissions, we've had the unfortunate situation where a meeting notice was not properly issued, and people would come to City Hall to go to the meeting, and we have to tell them, send everybody home. The meeting was not properly noticed. You would much rather reschedule your meeting and have that uncomfortable experience and reschedule the meeting as opposed to conducting a meeting in violation of the OPMA. So 2 members, less than a quorum of 5, can meet to discuss agency business. Perhaps the 2 will meet to discuss the pending agenda, to go through next month's meeting. 3 of you can meet and not discuss agency business. You can travel together to a meeting, to a conference, as long as you do not discuss agency business. We kind of frown upon that because it's pretty tough for 3 members out of 5 to be in your presence together and not at some point start discussing agency business. It's pretty difficult to do that. But the example they always give, 3 of you could go get coffee together, as long as you do not discuss agency business. But again, you have the public optics of that. Anytime you see 3 members out of 5 of any board or commission meeting for coffee or together, you're going to have the impression that agency business is being discussed in violation of the OPMA. So you lose confidence when that happens. And I frankly have not seen that scenario come up at all with the commission. Another topic that comes up on a regular basis is executive session. Under the OPMA, you can only go into executive session for those reasons set out in the revised code of RCW, the revised code of Washington state law. For the city council, those topics could be things like discussing purchase or sale of real estate, or discussing pending or potential litigation. The commission will not have most of those reasons to go into executive session. The most common reasons would be to review the qualifications of applicants for public employment. So this past year, when you went through the process to select a new chief examiner, you had the opportunity under state law to go into executive session, to go through the applications, review the qualifications. The important thing there is to remember that you cannot make a decision of who to select or discuss salary or benefits in executive session. That is done in open session. Even the selection of the fifth commission member, reviewing the qualifications of the fifth commission member that the other four get to select, can be done and has been done in executive session to review the qualifications. That has not come up this year because last month you decided to reappoint Commission Member Stephen. So that is one example. Now, one of the challenging issues with the executive session is for a quasi judicial body like the commission, when you're engaging in an appeal with named parties, you can go into closed session to deliberate. And that is separate from the OPMA. That is not subject to the OPMA. And that's kind of a difficult one to understand because it's so easy to say we're going into executive session to deliberate. Well, the reality is you're not going into executive session. You are going into a closed session as a quasi judicial body to deliberate on an appeal with named individuals. And that is outside of the OPMA. And again, even with that, we have the commission deliberate, but make your decision in open session. And then one of the ongoing topics is electronic communications or any type of communication on social media. And that platform changes as time goes on. 2 years ago, we're talking about Facebook. 2 years later, we're talking about Facebook and TikTok. And next year, there'll be another platform. And you're familiar with this issue because you'll get emails from the chief examiner, from myself, to the full commission, providing information with the warning at the very end. If you have questions, respond to me individually, not to the group as a whole. Because when this topic first came up several years ago, you would have that email chain that goes out. And then one person responds to the whole group on an opinion about the email chain. And pretty soon you have 4 or 5 emails going back and forth with the full commission, talking about agency business on substantive issues, not just procedural topics. And that constitutes a meeting of the commission without proper notice and without the chance for the stakeholders to participate. So that's why those emails you'll see from Kelsey and myself, the warning, reply to us individually, not to the whole group. When you're dealing with social media, you have that potential where if the commission has a Facebook page, you're putting out emails, and you have a quorum of the commission engage in agency business through that social media, that constitutes a meeting of the commission without proper notice. And then last topic I just want to mention real quick here is on committees. The commission doesn't usually have too many committees formed, but there's been a couple cases in the past 2 years just clarifying that if a committee is formed, again, less than a quorum, it might include staff, representation from the city, from the unions to discuss a topic. It could be like the rules committee might be a good example. Those committees are not subject to the OPMA as long as you are making an advisory recommendation to the commission. When you start crossing over and you are gathering evidence, taking testimony, making a recommendation that's not advisory, something that the commission has to act on, that crosses over and you're entering into the realm of having to comply with the OPMA. So the rules committee is a good example where you have staff, union, city administration involved, where you're bringing recommendations to the commission for approval. So you're not subject to the OPMA for that activity. Those are the main points. And as you read through the material from MRC and the state auditor's office, if you have questions, please feel free to call me. The last topic, I'll be very brief on this, is Robert's Rules of Order, our favorite topic. The commission generally does not have to delve into these matters of what is a subsidiary motion versus an incidental motion versus a renewal motion, all the fun stuff that even the city council does not have to delve into very often. But if we have to, we use Robert's rules to help us through any procedural matters that's not covered by the commission rules or frankly, by common sense. But one of the topics that has come up in the past is abstaining from voting. And with the city council and other boards and commissions, we rely on Robert's rules. And one of the provisions for voting is a member can abstain when they have a conflict that's unique to them that is not shared by the other commission members. And you would disclose that conflict before the matter is heard. Many times you can get over that conflict by just putting the matter on the record, disclosing to the commission, to the public, and then you can proceed. But if you do need to abstain, if the conflict is so great that you cannot be impartial, you abstain before the process starts. But abstaining from voting should only occur, again, when you have a conflict that's unique to the individual and not to the whole commission. If the whole commission has that same conflict, obviously the commission itself cannot recuse the entire body because then you have no commission to function. So in those situations where someone has to abstain, we want to make sure we get the discussion of the conflict to be addressed ahead of the presentation of the matter, whether it's an appeal hearing or a decision on one of the agenda topics, to review that conflict and make a decision before the matter is discussed. And again, when that conflict is unique to that individual and not to the whole commission. So I did include material, again, from MRC. If you are so inclined to want to dig into Robert's rules, a good material to help you fall asleep at night if necessary. So, and that is all I have. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I'll be happy to go through those issues. Thank you, Craig. That's all I have.
Mike, a quick question. I know in executive session, minutes do not have to be kept. Does that, is that rule the same under a closed session?
I believe so. Yeah, the closed session, the deliberation is very similar to an executive session. And our practice has been to not take minutes of those deliberations. Because that's an opportunity for the commission members to speak frankly, freely, without any caution of what your thoughts are, what you want to discuss will be recorded and then possibly disclosed as a public record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 4B, Mr. Sullivan.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for your time today. And I am just going to introduce myself for the benefit of anybody who might not know who I am. I think I know everybody who's here, but I'm Brian Sullivan. I'm an Analyst 3 with Civil Service, and Pam Bergen and I, Pam Bergen is with Human Resources. We wanted to take a few moments today to sort of pull back the curtain a little bit, and we found a meeting where there wasn't a bunch of other items. Apparently, this is the first time a PowerPoint has ever come up on my WebEx, so it's giving me a bunch of tutorials. But we wanted to take a few moments to talk about how the work that Civil Service does in the area of classification ties directly into what Human Resources does to determine compensation for the different classifications of the city. I'm going to start with a very, very high level, I wouldn't even say 30,000 foot view, maybe a 60,000 foot view of classification. And then at the end of that, I'm going to pass it along just like we would in the process to Pam from HR to take you through the compensation piece. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide. Thank you, Pam. So the first slide is really what classification is. And, you know, as one of my college professors would say, we need to define our term. So the term we use here is job classification is the systematic process of grouping positions into classes based on similar bodies of work and scope of responsibility. So if you look at the pyramid that's to the right there, this is the simple pyramid that's probably the most well-known classification system out there, which is classification of species. And you know, if you were an alien coming to Earth and they showed you a poodle and a German shepherd, you would look at those two dogs and you'd say, oh, these have to be different species. But what we know from studying them is that they share enough characteristics that they are within the same species. And, you know, if you think about like Queen Elizabeth's favorite dog, the Corgi, versus an Irish Wolfhound, so different, but they also share enough things that they're still within the same species. And that's very similar to the work that we do in the classification area. We're looking for commonalities. So just as the domestic dog and the wild wolf share enough characteristics that they're still considered to be within the same species, then we can go up a level from that and say, well, they share things with foxes and jackals and hyenas that come up under the family of canids, and up from there through, you know, carnivores, up through mammals into, you know, animals with a spinal cord is the next level. So that's basically what we do when we're working on classification pieces. The key word in that paragraph to me is systematic, that there really is a method to our madness. There's a process behind this, and classification is as much I would say lowercase s science as it is an art. People who do well in this job have to have, you know, creativity, good technical writing skills is essential. The ability to research, analyze, and synthesize data from a number of different sources, but it also helps for us to understand sort of the holistic needs of the city, and, you know, what is likely to be needed, where it's going to be needed, and how best we can serve the needs by writing a classification for that work. So that's really the definition of it. The charter empowers the commission to classify positions, and we currently have 362 of them around the city. Wanted to talk briefly about what classification is not, because this comes up all the time. Kelsey and I have had a number of conversations over the last 12 to 18 months where we say, well, there's a group of people who want to do this and they want us to classify it, and we've had to look at each other and say, that's not within the scope of what civil service can do. And so we've sort of had to politely push them to other avenues to get that need met. The big thing here is, you know, classification is a process to organize the work by common factors. It's not to dictate organizational structure. So we're not in a position to say which department necessarily owns a classification or how many of them there can be. We really do not want to take sides. I would say that there are some department heads in the city who have an entrepreneurial spirit and they want to grow the territory of their departments. It's really not civil service's place to take sides between one department and another as far as who owns what body of work. It's really just our job to organize the body of work so that it can be classified and then recruited and hired. So that's the first bullet point there. The second bullet point, work-centric, not person-centric. And what I mean by that, and that's why I included the periodic table over here, is every oxygen atom in the universe is part of the oxygen element. It doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter which celebrity exhaled that oxygen atom with their final breath. You know, it's an oxygen atom, has a lot of characteristics that it shares with every other oxygen atom, so it isn't part of the oxygen element. And the particular background of that special snowflake oxygen atom doesn't matter to us. If the work is the same, the classification should be the same. And finally, I just want to point out that a class specification is not the same as a position description. And this is probably the largest conceptual misunderstanding that people have about a classification. The language that we put into our job classes is not intended to be a literal representation of the work of every position within that class. It is really meant to be typical duties that are performed. And as long as the scope of work is essentially equivalent, you know, if we write a classification, for instance, that says answers phones, if somebody answers the phones 20% or 50% of their time, they can still fit within that classification. And so can someone who doesn't answer the phones except maybe once a week, because the other body of work is still the same. And it's just that they have the capability to answer phones when it's necessary. So as far as we're concerned, a firefighter is a firefighter no matter which of the city's 15 stations they work at. And that's how this works with classifications, is the broader picture of work is what's most important to us. So wanted to talk briefly about some of the benefits of a strong classification system. First off, we understand very clearly, because this is our own pain if we don't get it right, which is that it aligns hand in hand with employee selection and compensation processes. So if we don't write a good classification, or we don't have a good line of progression for employees, that messes up our own testing process. And so we feel our own pain in that area. So we've certainly learned to do the best we can. We're very cognizant and we try to be very thoughtful about the classifications that we're working on. Obviously, a strong classification system can lead to better recruitments and retention. That is something that's going to become more and more important as we move into the future, because as you know, there's a labor dysfunction right now, and we're certainly seeing that with our city recruitments. A strong classification system can eliminate artificial barriers to employment. The reason for that is the only thing that we're truly concerned about when we write a classification is what is the work that needs to be done. We're not concerned with the country club that somebody might have gone to. We're not concerned with which church they go to or whether they go to church. All we're concerned about is what is the work that needs to be done and what is the type of person who is best qualified to do that work. That's where the classification work comes in. So a lot of these artificial barriers can be eliminated, and a good classification can also become the work that HR will use in terms of developing accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So if we do a good job with our classification work, a lot of this stuff is eased along the way. It also allows us to have flexibility both for management and employees. A broader classification system allows management to move employees into roles that they need to fill more quickly. And it also allows employees to look around and sort of see holistically, like, what do I need to do to promote? Okay, I need to go over and do this job. So I'm going to transfer over, take this job in the same classification and work that until I've gained the knowledge and skills that I need to promote. And so it does allow flexibility in all those ways. And also, if a classification is really well written, it provides us a little bit of future proofing. So it gives us some ability to update them more quickly. And obviously, if it's strong, we're going to eliminate redundant and obsolete classes. So classification process, these are 3 big steps, and they're pretty common to a lot of project management type things. We're going to data gather, we're going to do analysis and development of the spec, and then we're going to get revisions and approval. I will say that the process of developing a new classification is more what I'm going to talk about in the upcoming slides, but the process of revising classifications is pretty similar. It's just that certain steps might be different and might be either added in or taken out, but these big 3 steps are essentially the same no matter what we do with classifications. So in developing the classification, the very first thing that we're going to do is, at least what I like to do is I like to go to management and make them give me an elevator pitch for the job. What is their concept for this classification? We do have managers in the city that sometimes will try to help us out by taking an existing class and they'll scribble all over it and they'll underline things and they'll strike through some other things and they'll change the quals and change the title and they'll send it to us. And in a lot of cases, it's not really that helpful because we don't understand what their concept is. So we're getting disjointed statements without actually a sort of holistic piece of how this all fits together. So I want to ask them, if you get on an elevator with a potential superstar employee and you've got the time between one floor and the next to tell them what this job is about, what are you going to say? Or if you're talking to the council president and you've got one breath of air before they cut you off to sell them on budgeting this position for next year's budget, what are you going to tell them? That's what I want to know, and that's where we start from. So if you look at the pyramid on the side, I've taken the animal species pyramid again, and now I've put a sort of hypothetical how this could work with classification. And really that elevator pitch is at that classification level. And then the next step we're going to do is drop back down to the bottom and start with those granular tasks. So they might say, okay, we need a position that sharpens pencils for use in civil service tests. Okay, well, that's a task that somebody could do. And then we're going to combine that into duties, which could be, we're going to sharpen pencils and we're going to print tests. And that could be a bigger duty of test preparation. And then we're going to take test preparation and combine it with Proctor's tests and generates eligible lists to create a larger function within the classification of, test administration. So there are different pieces we can combine it. We're going to gather sources of info from, we're going to gather information from as many sources as we possibly can. So management and labor, certainly, we may gather employee input from surveys, do interviews of the employees, and do desk audits, which are essentially a 2 to 4 hour job shadowing process where we observe them in their work, we ask a lot of questions, and we just sort of watch what they do and take a lot of notes. We look at other cities, other state agencies, federal government for related classifications. We'll look at the Federal Office of Personnel Management for guidance. We're looking at as many sources as we possibly can to gather all this work before we write the spec. So the next step is to sort of, as we talked about, combining, separating, rewriting the tasks into duties and functions. And then the second big piece of a class specification for us is to identify the competencies to include. A lot of places will have the managers or the employees write the knowledge, skills, or ability statements. I prefer to do them myself because we can look at common KSAs around other classifications and use similar language. So we're identifying these competencies, but it's also important to understand that in order for us to test for a certain knowledge, skill, or ability, we have to link it operationally to the task. So what we should have is a series of tasks that are done as part of this classification and a series of knowledge, skills, and abilities that are included in this classification. And those two things should be connected together. So you might have to say knowledge of the civil service rules in order to administer the test. That's what's called a linkage, and that's what allows us to test somebody on their knowledge of the civil service rules in the course of testing for that classification. So we're going to make sure that we do the linkages either during the classification process or during the test development process, but that linkage needs to be there in order for us to test for it. We're also going to note physical requirements and any environmental conditions of the job class, if they have to work outside, if they have to work in adverse weather conditions, if they're required to work nights or weekends. We'll make sure that that's noted on the class spec so that it can be considered not only for the recruiting piece, but also for the compensation piece. The next, I just realized these aren't bullet points, these are dashes. The next dash there is setting the minimum education and experience requirements for the job class. This could be an hour-long discussion of its own. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to say is that we are really trying to set minimum requirements for a job classification so that it is very unlikely that someone who does not possess those minimums would be able to succeed on the job. We cannot guarantee 100%. I think we all know people that don't meet the minimum qualifications for a job that we think would do very well at it. And on the other side, we've all seen people who meet the minimums and have washed out of a job very quickly. So we're aiming for, hopefully we're getting 90 to 95% correct where we set that line. But really, we're trying to make our best guess to eliminate the most unlikely people who would be applying for a job. And finally, that last dash there, write the first draft class specification, issue it to management. I just wanted to point out that although that's just one sentence, that alone can take as much time as everything else that's on here as far as our process goes. To get that first draft written does take quite a bit of time because it's a very technical piece of writing that needs to be done. So, and we issue it out to management. And the final slide that I have here for you is just the revision and approval process. Once we've issued the draft out to management, we'll go back and forth with them. If we've really done our job well, we can nail it in one. Usually it takes 2 or 3 drafts to get it to where management is satisfied with it. Once we have management approval, we send the proposed class specification off to the correct bargaining unit for review. And most of the time they'll have a few questions. It's nothing that requires revisions, but questions about some of the things we've put into the classification. But they might also have some legitimate issues or concerns that we can go back and forth with them and then with management until at the end of the day, we want labor and management to both agree that this classification is appropriate for the needs of the work that has to be done. So once labor and management are in concurrence, if it is a new classification or if it's a class that has a title change, we bring that forward to the commission. Classifications that have just been revised behind the scenes without a title change don't typically come to you. But once you've reviewed and approved the classifications, the process on the back end, the final step is the same for us. We upload it to the city's SharePoint site, which is accessible to all city employees who have a computer. And then we refer the revised or new classification over to HR for the compensation process. And at that, I'm going to turn it over to Pam Bergen. And thank you, Pam, for driving the slides for me.
Thanks, Brian. Pam, we're ready whenever you are.
blink twice if you need help.
All right, sorry guys, I just could not get my unmute to work here. So hopefully you guys can hear me now. And thank you, Brian, for starting that off for us today. Gonna go ahead and go back into the slideshow here. All right, so thank you, Brian, and thank you, commissioners, for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about how the compensation process works once we're handed either a significantly revised or a new classification from civil service. Typically, that process has a few different steps encompassed in it. One would be a point factor analysis, an internal equity analysis, and then we are often doing an external market analysis as part of a comprehensive salary survey for new classifications. So just to talk a little bit about what the point factor analysis is, that is really an internal tool, and what it does is it scores different compensable factors as outlined in the class specification, and then it equates the total score to a relevant pay plan. So when Brian talked about, writing a really good class spec, and it might talk about surroundings, for instance, that's really important because we're looking at that from a compensable factor and rating that based on that point factor analysis tool that we have. So if somebody works outdoors, for instance, it's going to be scored differently than somebody who sits in an office all day. We then perform an internal equity analysis, and that really is to compare internal positions here within the organization that have similar duties, required skill sets, and minimum requirements. The goal of using this tool is just to ensure fairness between existing employees. And then we're often going to also perform an external market analysis, and that is going to help us understand really what the going rate is for a particular body of work within similar organizations. One of the tools that we use when we're doing an external market analysis is actually NeoGov has a tool in the platform called Salary Study. And that's a way for us to look at comparables across local municipalities, not just in our region, but across the country, really. Anybody that uses NeoGov shares that information with each other. That's a great way to get comparables when we're trying to find unique situations that maybe, we don't have a lot of local comparables to use. We're always trying to evaluate regional classifications when we can. And what we do when we have differences between regions, for instance, there's a big difference perhaps between Seattle area classifications and Spokane area, is we use the employment cost index to measure the differences in the total employee compensation between counties across the region. And that tool is similar to comparing cost of living or the regional price parity index, but it drills down to the county level and really measures employment wages and benefits. And then lastly, when we're doing an analysis, we also will include a review of the org charts within the organization and or the progression lines to help us avoid wage compression and to encourage internal career progression. And once all of that analysis is completed, the analyst who's doing the salary survey is going to make a recommendation on pay plan for that position. So when we make a pay plan recommendation, there is, with our classified positions, a collaborative endeavor that takes place with the bargaining unit. So we reach out to the bargaining units, we share our analysis, we share our recommendation, and then a lot of times there's a back and forth until we reach concurrence. For our non-classified positions, we do also provide a notification and invite feedback on those recommendations as well. And then finally, once we reach concurrence, we do the routing. So we need to make sure that these things are updated in PeopleSoft, that they're updated in NeoGov, and that all the parties that need to know do know about the new recommendation for a classification. And just a few little facts that you might not know about our piece in the classification and compensation process is HR does maintain a little over 80 non-classified job descriptions. So our exempt positions, department head, assistant department head, and so forth. And also more than 60 temp seasonal job descriptions. We're doing the writing of those job descriptions in-house. We complete an average of 18 salary surveys a year. That's approximately 160 hours that we're just doing salary analysis. Doesn't include writing the job descriptions that we write, the classification work that we do as well. And then also we've automated our distribution process for finalizing salaries. We really want to make this an effective tool, but also an efficient tool so that civil service can recruit quickly and our employees' salaries can be updated when appropriate. So a few years ago, we updated that process in OnBase. So when we do revise or update a new classification pay range, that information is automatically distributed to budget, to civil service, to administrative staff so that those updates can be completed quickly. And that's really just one of the ways that human resources and civil service really work collaboratively to serve our organization. Without the work that they do, we would not be able to do the work that we need to do on our end. And we're very appreciative of the collaborative process that takes place in this area. And we're happy to answer any questions, Brian or I, depending on what your question is at this time.
Brian and Pam, that was a great presentation. Commissioners, if there are any questions, have any further later on, feel free to him.
Just thank you to both Brian and Pam. That was interesting and informative. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business?
I would like to thank whoever in the Civil Service Department put together this roadmap at the front of our packet. Maybe Tish. I mean, here was the meeting link, a phone number if we didn't have a computer, or an email, and Tish's number. This may have come from my tantrum last month, but whatever it came from, this is a great thing, and I hope to see it on the front of every packet. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Judith. Thank you, Tisha.
Any other business?
Move to adjourn.
Second that.
Wait, time out. I just learned in
time out.
Robert's Rules of Order that if a chair motions, asks for further business and none is given, then he can adjourn the meeting without a motion to adjourn the meeting. And that motion is non-debatable and is binding. Right, Mr. Piccolo? Was I paying attention?
I'd be happy to research that issue for you, Craig.
Either way, I'm up for adjourning the meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Same to everyone.
holidays, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care.